Hello and welcome to another special edition of Outlook Bibliofile. I have two very well-known gentlemen with me today. To my extreme left is Boria Majumdar. He's a sports historian and a very dear friend. And this gentleman in the middle needs no introduction. He's India's chief badminton national coach, Guru Gopichand. Boria, welcome to the show. Gopi, as usual, you've always been very supportive of Outlook, and thanks for joining us. Boria, we are talking about Boria's and Nalin Mehta's book called The Dreams of a Billion, India and the Olympic Games. Extremely well-timed book. We're just 5 months away from the Games. And what made you write this book?
See, it was waiting to be done. I mean, as you said, in terms of timing, we wake up to an Olympic Games every 4 years. Unfortunately, that's the reality. And Gopi and I have been talking about it for ages. Nalin, in 2005-06, in 2 consecutive years, Nalin and I went to the Lausanne archives, and we practically catalogued the Indian material there. And between the two of us, I think I got 75 hours of Gopi on tape between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. in the morning. So this was something that was waiting to be done, and both of us, I mean, Nalin and I, were pushing each other. Let's get to doing it. This is a hard book to write, Soumitra, and you know that, because there is no archive. There is no material. So there is no archive to walk into and do research like we academics are trained to do. So in that sense, it's storytelling. It is storytelling from being backstage with athletes like him and to represent the real story, in front of people. So it was supposed to be done. It's not the complete story. There can never be a perfect history. Having said that, I think this will spur many more people to take up the subject.
75 hours of Gopichand.
Minimum.
If
not more.
I have tried to interview Gopi many times, just wanting 5 quotes, and he takes 5 days to reply. How was it possible to give him 75 hours of footage?
That's because you don't push enough.
No, I think I told him, because the days for me start off at 5, and I said the only way I'm going to spend time with you is if you're able to get up in the morning, and we start talking at 4 a.m. in the morning. And he was always on time, and that's how I was able to take out time, because once the day starts, then there's so much of coaching happening, and that's when I find time very difficult. But at 4 a.m. in the morning, it is easy for me, because that's the time I get up and I'm ready. So luckily he was able to find time, and that's how we could manage it.
It's no surprise, Boria, that Gopi has got the reward, IOC reward for the honor, the honor for first ever Indian coach, for the kind of dedication that he has given. And very rightly so, you have devoted an entire chapter on Guru Gopichand. Yeah. I mean, what prompted you to choose Gopi and no other coach?
He is phenomenal. I mean, let's face it this way, and there are no two qualms. The fact that he's sitting with me doesn't really make a difference to me, and people who know me will know. This man is an absolute rock star. If there's one gentleman who's done wonders for Indian sport, it's this man. If there's one person you have to look up to, I'll tell you an anecdote. It was around 9 p.m. and one day before Sindhu's semi-final in Rio, and I was right outside the Olympic Village. And Gopi was standing there looking at nobody. He was just standing. So I happened to just sort of bump into him. He looks at me. Even before I start talking, he says, "No interviews today. Don't ask me anything." And he's actually rambling. He said, "I'm tired of coming forth. I really don't want to come forth. Abhinav again forth, Deepa again forth. Our country, we need to win this. Nothing today." And I'm just looking at him. And he said, "You ask me tomorrow, after Sindhu makes the final, I will go with you to Christ the Redeemer and do whatever you want. Not today." So he lost 10 kilos, between January and August of 2016. He went to his house and told Lakshmi that, "Look, it has always been about Gayatri and Vishnu in their house, food and everything else." He said, "For the next 8 months, it's about me," as in him. Why? Because he doesn't need to fall ill. If he falls ill, Sindhu's training goes. This is incredible dedication. Mother having cancer, putting the house on mortgage, raising funds to build an academy, and then to do what this man has done. Unbelievable.
No, it's finally, Gopi, that IOC has recognized your contribution towards this sport. But my first meeting with you as a journalist, of course, we heard a lot about you. I was from Calcutta. Calcutta had a very rich badminton culture. You had a lot of friends there. But the first time I saw him in action as a coach was in the 2012 London Olympics. I used to work for a television company which had the rights, and I was absolutely ringside. So the first interview that Saina Nehwal gave after she won the bronze medal was with me. And then, of course, you were besieged by the media in the mixed zone, and you were giving, but never forever. You were always emotional, or there was an outburst of emotions. I never saw that in you. But this book has several lines and quotes from you, which we never thought would ever come out from your mouth, especially on your relationship with Saina when she left your academy in 2014. So it actually shows a very different side of Gopichand.
I think for me it's a tough journey because as a coach, much of the success is because you own the players, and you have to own the players and believe that they are very dear to you, they're part of you, and you give everything what you have. And when you do something like that, and when something on the negative side happens, you kind of have repercussions on the emotional side. Of course, I'm not somebody to share it, and I think Boria has been a close friend, so he's been able to get out things which were I was probably thinking that he'll come back to me and show the entire script, and I will say cut this, but he didn't show me the script. But yeah, I think yes, it's a very it is a tough job to be a coach, and especially on the emotional side, because you put it all you have, and then sometimes when things don't plan out the way you would want to, then of course it hurts. But I think it's all part of the game, and I see it that it's been a learning experience for me as well, and I'm so happy that we've been able to. When you look back, well, I think there was more time after Saina left to work with Sindhu, and probably all happened for a good reason.
Well, having said that, what's the state now, right now? Because Saina is going through some injury rehab. Sindhu has lost a lot, needs to win again, and just 5 months away from the Olympics. How do you see both of them shaping up?
As I've said, I think Sindhu definitely is a prospect for a medal at the Tokyo Games. And Saina, well, the qualification is what is putting her pressure, especially when you are an athlete who's spent maybe 15 years on the circuit. You're not greatest playing back-to-back tournaments, and the qualification demands that you play so many tournaments. But once she qualifies, and once she gets the good 3 months, which is May, June, July of training, I think she is definitely capable of producing some good results at the Olympics, is what I truly believe.
Well, Boria, your book has a 14-page introduction. Normally books don't have such long introductions, but to tell you what, it's extremely informative. There's one particular paragraph that I found it very intriguing, is the amount of money the Indian government spent after Sakshi Malik and Sindhu and Jhajari, if I'm not wrong, won medals there, the kind of money they spent. Gopi has also made some comments about money being spent by the government, whether they're in the right direction, the wrong direction. As an author point of view, do you think we sometimes try to go over the top and try these small little huge amount of money? That is it worth spent?
It is. I mean, if you actually see, even that amount of money doesn't really compare to the amounts of money spent by the UK or the US. Yes, you can compare our economic status and stuff like that, but see, money is not an index. In the sense, if you take the case of Jamaica, Jamaica is economically not half as well off as India, but they are producing Olympic champions. That's a different story. But if somebody today comes and tells you, oh, you know what, Soumitra, we don't have money, hence we don't produce champions, that's wrong. We have enough and more money in the system. There needed to be accountability, something that Gopi constantly talks about. The money needs to go to the right people. That's something he speaks about. He says not only the top layer, not only number one, but also 2, 3, 4. So let that money go to the right people. If you see the chapter on shooting that Nalin and I are very proud of, money wasn't best spent. There was money even in before Rio. The money was given as part of the top scheme. The shooters who had qualified did not spend it well. I don't want to take any names here. Having said that, there has been a change now. So there is accountability. People now know how that money is being spent. So there is money and there is accountability, which is what gives me hope about India. What we see around you and me, Soumitra, every morning is negativity. We see communal disharmony, we see violence, we see problems, we see division, we see religious animosity. The only thing that gives me hope is these people, sport. Whether it's an Olympic Games, whether it's the Paralympic Games. You know what? I'm very proud of the fact that we've also been able to include 2 chapters on Paralympics.
Yes.
To be able to do that in the same book as the Olympic Games, to say that able-bodied athletes and para-athletes are the same, it was tough for us. Whether it will fly, how will it be treated? We are making a claim, Nalin and I, we will win 15 medals in Tokyo in Paralympics. If that happens, that is revolution of the highest order, more money to them. Some people have already said 5 crores or something, some chief ministers, let it be any amounts. Because when Devendra Jhajaria tells you I did not have a TheraBand and मैं कुल्हाड़ी ले लिया सर कुल्हाड़ी लेके पेड़ काटना शुरू कर दिया and मेरा exercise हो गया, and Manoj Sarkar tells you that my mother used to make bidi, you know bidi better than I do, so I used to make bidi and buy a badminton racket for 10 rupees. Come on, let there be as much money in the system as possible.
Gopi, this question to you, I mean, Boria's book essentially is on Olympians and on the Olympic movement of India, but he also does mention Kapil Dev as an icon that actually transformed Indian cricket after the 1983 victory. Do you at any stage feel that, you know, Indian sports, in the Olympic sports, lack icons and really there's no one to motivate? Yeah, I mean, Boria writes that Abhinav Bindra is 1 in a billion. I think it's such a very negative comment. You should have more Abhinav Bindra.
Of course, you agree.
I think I think it's the way you look at it, because for me, when Karnam Malleshwari won the medal, I was waiting for morning to happen because I just wanted to see the medal, and I was like 6:30 in the morning. I somehow got the courage out to knock on the door and say I want to see the medal. And as somebody who was maybe 26 years old, 25 years old then, to actually go out there and say I haven't won it, but still I want to have a look at the medal and want to be, and that was big enough inspiration. And a bronze medal then, somebody like an Abhinav of course is a huge motivation. And sports revives, sports culture revives in the country, and then people after seeing say a Saina or a Sindhu have started saying my kids can play well, and if there is a girl in the family, I want her to take sport, and that's such a big revolution for so many communities in our country. So I think sports as a motivation, as role models, as people, as icons, I think is huge. And for me, I think the book not only is about the champions and the people of this times, but it also talks about, and for me this the best chapters of the book where you talk about India's Olympics in the 1920s, and how people, how proud they were, how people had pride in sending the team there, how proud they felt about representing the country, and that for me is the biggest chapter of the book.
If Boria's book does not have history, then it's not a book, because he's a champion at that. I mean, we've done many episodes with him, and he could rattle off history just like anything. So, oh my God. But anyway, coming back to the way Indian sports movement, he has a chapter, Tokyo and Beyond, and that's been the narrative of the present government. They're not looking at Tokyo, they're looking at 2024 and 2028. So, how do you see, I mean, 8 years, I mean, narratives keep changing with governments. I mean, can you really have a 2028 vision and do things right now? That's one part of my question. And the second part of the question, we've suddenly seen this Khelo India movement. Is it a step in the right direction?
For one, I think I'm sure many fields will say that, but as a sports person, I would say that sports is a long-term vision, and the narrative has to be consistent. And I'm very happy that the last few years have had great government support, right from say 2008, and now it's almost been that people are talking about it in the right direction, in the sense they're not saying okay 2020 is okay, because we've always spoken about the next Olympics, and the next Olympic is already late. So just to talk this 2028 language and 32 language is the right language to speak to, because sports is long term, and you cannot have governments which have a 4-year or a 5-year term talk about it only for that period of time. So it's very, very important. And for me, all of these steps, whether you call it the Khelo India, the games of the Khelo India University Games, the Fit India movement, the sports culture which is being spoken about by the PM, I think these are huge steps in the right direction. And the PM said some things which are very, very good in the sense. One is about the scholarships. He talks about coaches and how improvement of coaches at the various levels is very important. And he also talks about it a Fit India and how even if you don't win a medal, it's okay, but giving your best is what's important. This was his message after Rio, where we actually made less number of medals, but I think that's been a positive input from the PM, because that's what helped, I would say, India do well in the 18 Commonwealth and the Asian Games.
Thank you, Gopi, for being with us, and really appreciate the time you spent with us.
Thank you.
And I'm sure with all your inputs in Boria's book will be a flyer.
Thank you.
We are joined by Nalin Mehta, who is the co-author with Boria Majumdar in this beautiful book called The Dreams of a Billion, India and the Olympic Games. Nalin, you're a journalist. How was it like, tying up with a sports historian and writing this book? I'm sure you would have a lot of kind of contradictions, a lot of arguments over writing the chapters.
Well, I'm a journalist, but I'm also a political scientist. We went to the archives together, separately and together in the Lausanne archives. Boria found a lot of material there, and at the IOC. Then I found a lot of material there, and then we collaborated. In terms of arguments, I think Boria and I have been arguing for 15 years now. When we first started looking at this material from 2007 onwards, Boria, it's been more than 2005, so it's been 15 years. So in fact, right till the end of the day, right till the day when it went to press, we were arguing, because when two people, see, we have very similar sensibilities. We both have one aim, to write about. We believe in the idea of sport. We believe in the idea of sport as a cultural practice. We believe in that it's really important as a nation for India to play sport and do well in sport. Now, obviously, when you're two different people, you have different points of view on some things. So, but we also trust each other enough, I think, to do a book together and to come to agree to disagree.
In fact, this is a very unique production. When you have two guys not agreeing but agreeing to write a book, it obviously brings out a very good production.
I think it makes it better, because what happens is that in this, any creative process of writing is subjective, right? So when you argue it out, you question your own assumptions a lot more, and therefore I think this is the best book we could have written.
Boria, I was telling Nalin that this is not a book. It has stories, it has data, it has a lot of opinion, which you have made, very rightly so, and it has a lot of observations, which are very pertinent to India's future as far as a sporting nation. But having seen a lot of the world, you've seen a lot of the world, do you think, my first question to you, that India really has a sporting future?
Sporting future, yes. Culture, no. I mean, even at this point in time, do we have a sporting culture? No, we are getting there. We still are in search of that elusive sporting system that Nalin and I talk about. Are we getting there? Yes. For example, in shooting, we now have a structure. We do. And that is the fundamental change since Rio that we are seeing. As a result, you are seeing Indian shooting do so well. There is a structure at the junior level, proper coaching, proper accountability, sports science. What do I mean by a structure? A structure means proper coaching, sports science, nutrition. It's a total holistic structure that I'm talking about here. Other sports don't. If you actually see a lot of the other sports, the federations are mired in contradiction. They are fighting with each other. There are 5 different federations claiming I am the right federation. So there is a lot wrong there. Having said that, some sports we have got it right. There is a Gopi in badminton. There is a Raninder Singh in shooting who has got the structure right. There is, irrespective of the structure, boxing has now sort of evolved quite a bit. So the answer is yes, we have a sporting future, big time. Because when I see Soumitra, 3,000 people participating in a badminton competition where there were 150 people some years back, it gives me hope. When I see 55,000 people participate in the Mumbai Marathon, nobody asking what religion, what caste, what economic background, it gives me hope. So yes, the answer is I'm a born optimist. I always will see the glass as half full rather than half empty.
I have a very interesting question for you. You run a very important digital platform, followed by billions, not billions, billions. You love the word billions, don't you? So when it comes to digital, and when you look at trends. Don't you feel that when he talks about the structure, when he talks about shooting getting there, but all the page views are taken away by a bullock cart racer? How does it feel?
Look, like Boria said, I think we are optimists. The point of the thing is that, look, it doesn't matter whether you are interested in sport or not. When Olympic comes, every Indian asks this question, where are the medals coming from, right? Almost all Indians ask that question. The point is, for a lot of people, sport is much more than, for sports people and those interested in sport, it's about the craft. For most of the rest of the country, it's about nationalism, it's about identity. Now, when the bullock cart thing happens, that represents actually the yearning of a country to get some kind of success. So there is a desperation around that. That's why that happens. Now, if that generates some interest in sport, well, we'll take it as it comes.
Yeah, but to compare him with Usain Bolt,
I thought Soumitra, and I've written about it, I thought was the greatest disservice done to that man.
absolutely.
Because that man is independently talented.
But Boria,
Treat him
I
as
must
such.
stop you there. In fact, he had more sensibilities in the sense that he did not want to go.
Exactly,
Absolutely.
and I wrote that the fellow actually came out as the most sane voice in this
Absolutely.
whole narrative. It is our problem. You know, someone did this, and this whole thing caught out with our media that he's being compared to Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt is once in 100 years. So let's give credit to Usain Bolt, and let's give credit to this man also. Let's treat him as an independent, talented man coming out of rural India.
In his own craft.
In his own craft.
Own craft.
And India has many such.
And he's been working on it, training for it since he was a child, and he gets paid for it.
So the fact of the matter is, he and I have done this. We had once done an issue for an Australian news portal. This only happens in India, you remember?
Yeah.
This actually only happens in India. Somebody and I was, and you know what? My fear is, and this you will agree with me, if today we actually go and say that by comparing this man with Bolt, we've done a disservice, somebody will see you're anti-national.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious me. Whoever that fellow who has compared with Bolt is an idiot. Is doing, somebody compared Hima Das to win an Olympic gold. Boss, you have ultimately done disservice to Hima Das. And I wrote about it for his page. What we ended up doing was we screwed up Hima Das's head. A 21-year-old formative athlete. The races she had won was E and F categories. She was ranked 87 in the world. We were saying Olympic gold. Where's
See, I think as a
research?
country we need to have perspective.
Correct.
We need to
That's what
have
we lack.
perspective and a sense of balance. And that what happens is sometimes we just go over the top.
Absolutely.
And that happens more often than not.
Yes, in fact, my other question is, since you've been in the media, Boria, I think Boria has done more cricket interviews and stories than Olympic stories, if I'm not wrong.
Equally, I would say now, because I've done a lot of Olympic
But
stuff.
it is
also.
totally skewed towards cricket. And I was imagining, if cricket was an Olympic sport, how would you have written this book?
Firstly, cricket was in 1900.
Yes.
That way.
I'm saying in the recent
we
times.
would have, Nalin and I, in fact, that's a great question. Maybe the next edition should start with a chapter why cricket isn't and how the BCCI will
We
make sure that
probably
cricket is.
should. In fact, that's why we've made it a point to call it India and the Olympic Games. You could have called it the history of Indian sport and then had something on cricket here. But we didn't, because we made it a point to write about Olympic sport, which are often ignored in this country, except for that once in 4 years.
I'll tell you, Soumitra, a very personal thing. I've done cricket for donkey's years. If somebody asks me to watch a cricket World Cup and an Olympic Games will win 10 times out of 10. There's no comparison. A cricket World Cup will be number 11 to number 20. Olympics is 1 to 10. That whole vision of an Olympic Games, 28 different sports, is something
It's
extraordinary.
amazing. It gives an entirely different
So,
feeling.
and Abhinav's line that Olympic Games is not every 4 years, it's
every
every
day.
day, that defines this book.
Absolutely.
He's got
And
that in his center, and it comes every day.
I have one question for you. Is that why haven't we succeeded in team sports?
See, one of the reasons why we got this in the book, one of the reasons why India was a hockey superpower when the hockey teams were doing very well, is because there was no parochialism and factionalism in those teams in that period. Hockey starts declining, everyone says because of AstroTurf. What we've documented is not just because of AstroTurf, but also because of a serious north-south divide in this country in the administration of the game. And once the team falls off the rails, it's very difficult to bring it back together. Part of the issue, I think, in team games is unless you have a professional structure in place, which allows now. Look, teams will rise and fall. Even the best of structures will sometimes lead to a bad team.
It has happened with the Dutch football team.
You look at Indian cricket now. Once you have a relatively much more professional structure in place, you have a far greater chance of doing well at team sport than otherwise.
And again, I mean, I don't think success has been there in any sport consistently. If you actually Olympic sport.
Yes.
So if you take a look at shooting, for example, it went up with Rathore and Abhinav and Gagan.
And in a little bit in 2012.
Then it fell. Rio, we all thought 12 shooters, multiple medals. It fell. 20 again, we will win. I mean, Olympic sport with all the pressures, we should win. That's what you and I will say as rational optimists. So in Indian sport, where is that consistent graph? No sport. Maybe with Gopi in badminton, we are saying, okay, 2008 quarterfinals, 2012 bronze, 2016 silver, so maybe 2020.
You look at boxing. I mean, you had in Beijing, and after that things have just fallen off.
I mean, the best example is 2012, 6 medals, and 6 months later, your Indian Olympic Association gets disqualified because of corruption and mismanagement.
Yes.
What more do you want?
I have my last questions for you, Boria. In context of your book, realistically speaking, there are a lot of stories of inspiration in this book, but inspiration does not translate into medals. They're two different facts of life. Realistically speaking, if you were to write this book after the Tokyo Games, how would you write this?
I think we'll win. We've debated this, to the T. I think realistically, sitting today in Jan, keeping in mind athletes' fitness, performance, their graph over the last few years, mental ability, potential to take pressure, we stand to win anywhere between 7 and 9 medals in Tokyo. And I'll give you the breakdown. 4 to 5 in shooting, because we've qualified 15 shooters, 21 events, at least 4, because there are mixed events also. So there are multiple events. So
that's a great
Apurvi and
chance,
Saurabh and Manu and so pistol and rifle. So Apurvi and Deepak and Manu and Saurabh, and gold chances, not other medals. So 4 to 5 realistically. I'm taking 2 in wrestling. I'm taking 1 from Vinesh or one of the girls.
Bajrang.
I'm taking 1 from Bajrang or Deepak or Ravi. So I'm taking 1 from boxing. I'm going with 1 with Amit and maybe Manish or someone else. I'm going 1. I'm going conservative. I'm going 1 from Gopi's table. Satvik Chirag or Sindhu. I'm going 1. So that gives you 8. And I'm going, so that's my vision. So Neeraj has a chance, X has a chance, Y has a, so between 7 and 9.
7 and 9 and roughly around 15 in Paralympic sport.
That's
Let's
the
not
more
forget that
important
at all. That's absolutely crucial.
Maybe even 20.
Possibly.
Maybe even 20 in Paralympics. Rio we had 4. That Soumitra will be a revolution.
Thank you, Boria and Nalin, for being with us, and my hearty thanks from Outlook, and may your book do well.
Thank you so much.